potentially with California? It just adds an extra layer of complexity in his fight that had already been going on for a while with the automakers for moving factories and all sorts of other
the theory being if you kind of act as one with your competitors to try and get some standards set, but I don't know.
That's true, but all companies must act as one if they're complying
industry
with the
standards,
regulatory requirement. There are all kinds of industry standards. They may be safety standards. In this case, they're environmental standards. There are a zillion things that they all do in concert because they are required to by regulatory agencies. And I think what the Trump administration is really mad about is that California, because it's so big and there's so many cars sold there, has de facto set the national standard because you've got to comply with California. And once you've done that, you might as well make all your cars comply with that.
Right. And as we pointed out, Phil, earlier as well, I mean, it is an interesting situation where you have... Oh, Phil's gone. All right. We lost Phil. Jim, I'm glad you had you here to weigh in on this. It's very interesting.
I mean, the use of the antitrust division, whether you're talking about AOL, Time Warner, not AOL, Time Warner, AT&T, there is this cloud of politicization hanging over. It was always a very apolitical, economically driven agency that is really, really a big shift in the way the White House has treated the Justice Department.
Thank you for being here, Jim. Sure. Jim Stewart.
I would also note the automakers are all trading higher. The U.S. automakers, that is, so not too spooked by these headlines. We're continuing to follow this one for you. Getting a check on the major averages as we head to break. We're higher now, 77 points up on the Dow. S&P's up 0.25%, just adding to what has already been a pretty strong week, under 2% from record highs on the S&P 500 right now. We'll be right back.
Delivering Alpha, the most important investor summit 9 years running. Strategy from leading alpha generators. Direct access to policymakers and government leaders. On September 19th, see who's calling the shots now. Go to deliveringalpha.com to attend this year's blockbuster event.
You will come away with ideas that you can put to work immediately.
Plus, special guest Vice President Mike Pence talks economy and trade war impact. Reserve your spot now at deliveringalpha.com.
This meeting of the Losers Club has officially begun.
The final chapter, I dreamt of you, has begun. I craved you. In London. I've missed you. Don't miss the final chapter.
We didn't stop it. We can't let it happen again.
Don't miss the end of It.
Hello?
It, Chapter 2. In cinemas now. Book tickets from your desktop. Rated 15.
I'm getting strawberry notes. And a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids chooses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness. And packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
With Rapid Insurance on Vodafone Business, we'll get a replacement phone to you within 4 hours. So if you should... Oh, no. Or even... Just get in touch and we'll...
Your replacement phone, sir.
Your phone replaced within 4 hours with our Rapid Insurance. Available on our new and limited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone Business.
Max download upload speeds apply to data. Coverage may vary. Unlimited and rapid terms at vodafone.co.uk/terms.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
The bond market is doing something it has never done before, and it could mean a change is in the air. Find out more on tradingnation.cnbc.com. More Squawk in the Street is coming up.
You could think if you pay less per trade.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nation, and P-Money. MCing from Harry Pinero and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
No. No. No.
What are you doing?
I don't like any of our preset radio stations. We need a new car.
With the Jaguar E-Pace at $299 a month on personal contract hire, you'll find a reason.
That's better. And it's a Jaguar.
Initial rental £3,588. 48-month term. Subject to status. 8,000 miles per annum. Excess mileage and return conditions apply. No ownership option. Ends 30th of September. Participating retailers only. Jaguar contract hire.
Certainly raising some eyebrows this morning, this DOJ investigation of some automakers. Ford Motor, though, confirming it has received a letter from the Department of Justice on this California emissions agreement and whether in some fashion it was colluding. All right, let's get over to CME Group now. Join Rick Santelli, who's got the Santelli Exchange. Rick.
Good morning. Thank you, David. I'd like to welcome the former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under George W. Bush, Ed Lazier. Ed, thanks for joining me. I'm going to get right into it. I thought the jobs number was jobs light. The revision of 20K over 2 months wasn't good. But wages on a month-over-month topped 0.4. That's the second time this year. You have to go back to September of 2017 to find a higher number. There's been several of those. But the big news, EPOP, employment to population, best since December of 08 at 60.9, and labor force participation moves up to levels at 63.2. We've had several, but that's really the best since 2013. Your thoughts on the report?
Right. I would say growing but slowing. It was almost an ideal report, to my mind, for this part of the business cycle. As you mentioned, the EPOP is up, the employment to population ratio, that's the number of people who have jobs over the number of people who could have jobs. It's kind of a surprise, actually, to still be growing. It was pretty stable, and it ticked up a little bit. You know, hopefully that will hold. We'll see where it goes next month. As you mentioned, wages are good. Wage growth at 3.2% is just about right on where we want to be at this point of the cycle again. So that looks good. The other thing that was good was the hours. Average weekly hours went up by a tenth of an hour. A tenth of an hour is the equivalent of 400,000 jobs, so that's good news as well. So most of this stuff is really quite good, I'd say. The other thing that I always like to point out is, you know, you should look at the 3-month moving average of jobs rather than the single-month job number. And the 3-month moving average is 156,000. 156,000 is still recovery pace because we only need about half of that to keep up with population growth. It is lower than what we had last year. It's about 2/3 of what we had last year. So again, it looks like we're peaking, but just really quite a solid report. So I have no complaints.
All right. Listen, Ed, we only have 1 minute left. Real quickly, I want to hit on a big discussion we had this morning, which is the run rate of the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
And if you look at GDP in 2017, 2018, and the 2 quarters we have for 2019, you know, it certainly seems like 2.5% is very, very realistic, but yet the assumption is we have a 2% run rate. Weigh in on that as an economist in the 30 seconds you have, will you?
Okay, 2.5% is realistic. Here's why. If you think about the 30-year average before the recession, it was about 3%. We're going to lose about a 0.5 percentage point because of demographics. So that would put us down to about 2.5%. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but we certainly don't have to suffer delusions of grandeur to get there. All you need is about 2% productivity growth, and you're at 2.5%. And we could have more than 2% productivity growth. So it's feasible, even if it's not most likely. It is certainly feasible.
Excellent. Ed, thank you for your time today. Hope you have a great weekend. Sarah, back to you.
My pleasure.
Rick, thank you. Let's get a check on the winning sector for the week, which is retail. Dom Shu has that for us back at headquarters. Dom.
All right, so Sarah, if you take a look at this overall picture, retail was the biggest winner, with consumer discretionary the best performing sector on a 1-week basis, up close to around 3%, almost a full percentage point better than the broader S&P 500, thanks in part to strong 1-week performances from the likes of a lot of stocks, Tapestry, PVH, Gap, other apparel and accessories companies. The sector will continue to be a focus for investors as more attention turns towards the health of the American consumer and whether that strength can keep the economic expansion guys going. Now I'll send it back downtown to you guys at the exchange, Sarah.
All right, Dom, thanks. Walk Alley's coming up next. Dow's up 72 points. We're sort of building on our gains here, adding some momentum into the day, though FANG all lower. Squawk Alley, we'll be right back.
Real-time Moving from one rental home to another is so expensive.
Last time, we had to pay hundreds to move in, the first month's rent,
and then a big deposit. With Romans, it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't. At Romans, you really can move in from just £36, plus your first month's rent.
And that's it?
Nothing more to add. Move in from just £36, plus your first month's rent. With Romans. No deposit.
No problem.
Romans, your trusted local property experts at romans.co.uk. Conditions and monthly fee apply.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids uses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
With Rapid Insurance on Vodafone Business, we'll get a replacement phone to you within 4 hours. So if you should...
Oh, no.
Or even... Just get in touch and we'll...
Your replacement phone, sir.
Your phone replaced within 4 hours with our Rapid Insurance. Available on our new and limited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone Business.
Max download upload speeds apply to data. Coverage may vary. Unlimited and rapid terms at vodafone.co.uk/terms.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. at Facebook headquarters in Menlo Park, California. 11 a.m. here on Wall Street. Squawk Alley is live. Squawk Alley. I am John Ford with Morgan Brennan and Sarah Eisen here at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Carl Quintanilla is on assignment. And we're going to begin this morning with Facebook. It is down around 2%. Several state attorneys general announcing an antitrust probe into the social network and Alphabet as well. Julia Borston has more on Facebook from LA. Hey, Julia.
John, New York Attorney General Letitia James is leading a bipartisan coalition to investigate Facebook for antitrust violations. She's joined by 7 other state AGs, plus the AG of the District of Columbia so far. The attorneys general saying, quote, "We will use every investigative tool at our disposal to determine whether Facebook's actions may have endangered consumer data, reduced the quality of consumers' choices, or increased the price of advertising." Facebook shares moving lower on the threat of potentially large fines from these attorneys general. Now, a separate Google antitrust probe is expected to be announced at a news conference outside the Supreme Court on Monday. Today's news is in addition to the FTC's antitrust investigation into Facebook, which Facebook confirmed in July, and the Department of Justice's antitrust investigation into Google. Facebook telling us today, quote, "People have multiple choices for every one of the services we provide. We understand that if we stop innovating, saying people can easily leave our platform. This underscores the competition we face, not only in the U.S., but around the globe. Facebook also saying that it will work with the state AGs and it welcomes a conversation with policymakers about the competitive environment. Morgan, back over to you.
Julia, thank you for bringing us the latest on this developing story. Turning to the August jobs number now. Mixed picture from today's payrolls report. The U.S. added 130,000 jobs in August versus an estimated 150,000. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate held steady at 3.7%. Average hourly wages grew 3.2% year over year. Here to walk us through it all is Greg Bowdle, BNP Paribas, head of U.S. equity and derivative strategy. Also with us is John Bellows, Western Asset Management Company portfolio manager and former acting assistant secretary for economic policy at the U.S. Treasury Department. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. Greg, I'll start with you. It would seem like this jobs number we got this morning, there's something for everyone to love, or I guess I should say hate, bear and bull. How would you break it down?
Yeah, I think it's a very mixed number, and I think it tells you very little directionally for the equity market. So the headline number was a little worse. The average hourly earnings number was better, so it gives you very little directionally for the equity market. We'd look back at the manufacturing ISM as something that, as a directional indicator for the equities, is maybe more important this week.
John, your thoughts on this, especially as many investors look to the Fed to see what they do not only later this month, but into the rest of the year?
You know, I think the context is really important here. Over the last few weeks, we've seen an increase in recession fears. That peaked on Tuesday as the ISM, which was just mentioned, manufacturing was negative. People are increasingly concerned about a recession in the United States. I think today's data suggests that those recession fears are perhaps premature, and maybe the bond yields have fallen a little bit too far. And what we are seeing is more stability. We're seeing an ongoing expansion. 100,000 private payrolls will continue to support income and consumption, and we think continue to drive the expansion. So I think the big message today is that the fear of recession, which had been building, is probably premature, and we could see some retracement of the price action that we've seen over the last few months, or last month.
John, what, if anything, do you think these numbers tell us about the wiggle room that the president has to continue to play hardball with China in this trade war?
I think probably not. They don't tell us that much. Obviously the trade war is primarily impacting manufacturing and global trade, and we are seeing weakness there. That's why the ISM number on Tuesday did spook people. I think that's ongoing, and I think that remains a concern. But I would go back to, I think that the jobs report tells us that's not likely to put the U.S. in recession in the near term, and we think the expansion is ongoing.
Greg, what does it mean for October? Looks like a close call for the Fed.
Yeah, so our economists are forecasting a